Hello, my name is Ashley. Welcome to episode 3 of the Papercraneyarns knitting podcast. I am the hand dyer and project bag maker behind Papercraneyarns, which can be found on Etsy, Instagram, and of course now here on YouTube. So yeah, this is my third episode of making the podcast. This is being filmed on a Tuesday. I don't have a consistent schedule yet planned out for the podcast, but I pretty much have been recording where I can, and this week that is today. You'll probably see me again later this weekend, but since I missed this past weekend, I wanted to go ahead and just get something out. So I will just jump right in, you guys. It's been a little over a week since I last recorded. I've definitely made some progress on some bigger projects. Not a whole lot of progress across many projects, but I'm pretty pleased with where I am so far. I guess I will start with telling you about this shawl that I'm wearing. And this is not something that I just finished. I think I finished this earlier this year. This was a little just interim crochet project I think I made in probably an afternoon or two in between some sweater projects. But this is the Turning Point Triangle Shawl, I believe. The Turning Point Triangle Scarf by Carey, also known as the Hook Nook. So of course, like I mentioned, this is crochet. I got this yarn on clearance, I think sometime in 2020 at Johanna. I think maybe they were discontinuing her products, or at least at my location. So I think I got all of these yarns for $2 or $3. They are an acrylic wool blend, and they're really soft. Yeah, I'm actually really happy. I don't usually go for acrylic because it's kind of squeaky, but this one, I think probably because of the wool and just how soft it is, this has made a really nice project, and it was really quick to crochet. I did use the free pattern that she had available on her blog. The only issue that I had was it seemed like there were some issues. I believe she released this as like a crochet along, so there was multiple blog posts, if I'm remembering correctly, where the pattern was divided. And you can get the full pattern on Ravelry, and I think it's paid for on Ravelry. But I used the blog post version, and there were some errors in the math, like the stitch count, but once you learn the pattern and how you're increasing, it's super easy to just figure it out. So yeah, just a word of warning, if you do try to make this project, you're gonna have to, unless it's been updated since. I haven't checked back since I made this, but at the time that I made this, there were some issues with the pattern, but you should be able to figure it out really easily. I think it was, if I remember, it was kind of like one side didn't match the other, so pretty solid, pretty easy to figure out how to fix that. But I'll get a little closer so you can see. Hopefully you can kind of see how fuzzy and soft this yarn is. Yeah, it's definitely warm in my studio, so I'm not gonna be able to wear this the whole time, but I haven't had much of a chance to wear this since I just made this this year, and I thought it went with what I was wearing, so I threw it on, but it does stay pretty warm. I love the spine. I don't always love crochet shawls, but I just love the simplicity of this one. It's just the right size, and you could keep going if you wanted to, but it's just the right size to throw it on and to sort of loop the back points underneath. So yeah, I'm gonna wear it for as long as I possibly can. So, all right, I'll move on to my works in progress. I don't have any new works in progress to show this time around. I'm still working on the same couple of projects. There's one project in particular that's definitely taking up most of my knitting time and my mental power. So between getting that one done and doing all the other things that I have to do in a week, I haven't made too much progress on everything else, but I will show you anyway. So I'll start with the sock. So I've shown this both episodes now. This is the pair of socks that I'm working on. And this time it's on a sock blocker, so you can definitely see all the different colors, the way that it's striping and pooling. And in case you haven't watched my last episode or two, this is the Favorite Socks pattern by Kristin Lehrer of Vine. This is just a vanilla sock pattern, so there's no cabling, no anything too special. This is a really great basic pattern, and if you want to learn how to knit socks, I recommend checking out her video tutorial that goes along with her PDF pattern, because it's really easy to follow. So I won't show this too much since I have shown it a couple of times already. But I did actually make some progress on the second sock. So this is a project bag that I made. You can hear more about it in my earlier episodes. So I think I made all of this progress in probably 1 or 2 afternoons. So I went from not knitting on this at all to just trying to get it done as quickly as possible. And I'll talk about why a little later. But when I last showed it, I think I just had the ribbing done for the cuff, and now I have almost a full sock. So this is the top, and I was probably just right here, I think, last episode. So then I have knit the whole leg. I've got my heel flap, and I'm working on the foot. I've already done all of my decreases. So I'm just going to knit to the length of my pinky toe, and then I'm going to decrease for the toes and Kitchener stitch off. And then it'll be done. And I'm ready to be done with these, because while I do like this yarn, it's definitely not, it's not my thing. I did dye this yarn, again, just to experiment with a dye technique. And I didn't think it was really worth selling, plus I wanted to see how it knit up, so I did. I'm sure I'll find some use for these, even if it's just wearing them around the house. But yeah, I expect that I'll finish this tonight and get this off the needles so I can get my 9-inch Chow circular needles back. I did want to show you this. I love the way that the heel knit. It's just the perfect little rainbow stripe. And I'll definitely have a good bit of this yarn cake left over, so I'll probably knit another pair of little baby socks, or I'll save it for a scrappy project. But I do want to get these done because, again, they're not really inspiring me. I do love to knit socks. I love hand knit socks. So I'm excited to have a pair of hand knit socks, but I'm not super thrilled by the color. And I'm sure you know this, but summer sock camp starts on June 1st, which is Kay of the crazy sock lady. She's doing another year of summer sock camp. I didn't do it last year, so I'm excited for this year. So I would like to, it's about midway through May now, and I just want to make sure that I have some projects ready to go for that. I'm in the 9-inch cabin, so I'd love to hear what cabin you guys are in. I might have to try out some different sock knitting techniques for summer camp. All right, moving on. So my next work in progress. This is one that you've seen the past episode or two. This is the Sheer V sweater by Jessie Maed Designs, and I have actually, again, made some progress on it, so I'm happy about where it's going, and I'm really excited to keep knitting this. The next project I'll show has taken all of my focus, but I love working on this one. I almost don't want to knit it too quickly because I want it to last. I don't know when I'll get to knit a project like this one again with the mohair and the lace cashmere. It's just such a nice pairing. But yeah, this is the Sheer V by Jessie Maed Designs. I'll link the pattern below so that you can take a look, just like with all of the patterns and yarns that I talk about today. You can find the information down below. So this is, once again, the sweater that has that sheer V panel here at the bust with just the mohair. It's an intarsia panel. So this is my pairing. And this is how it's knitting up. So it's very fluffy. It's very soft. And I love the color that's coming out. It's only, you know, the two yarns, they're very neutral, very mild, I'd say. And of course the white base I knew was gonna take on the mohair pretty definitively. But the finishing fabric is a little bit less pink like this and a bit more tan, so that's kind of cool. So the yarns, once again, are the Anzula Cloud Au Naturel base. So this is the light fingering. This is a 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. It's 525 meters or 575 yards. And this is an undyed skein. And I started, so I've got two, and that should be enough to do the whole sweater. So this is the Anzula Cloud. Yeah, it's just a really soft, squishy, basic yarn base. And I'm pairing it with the Pearl Soho Tussock 60% superfine kid mohair, 40% silk. This is the Pink Fog colorway. It's 328 yards. I love how shiny it is. So, yep, those are my yarns. Now, I did not make a huge amount of progress since I last showed it, but I want to talk a little bit about the process. If you saw my second episode, I was showing the ribbing. So this is a bottom-up sweater. I was showing the ribbing. This is upside down. And just talking about how kind of small it was. And before I knit part of the body, it really looked small. So if you can just imagine this ribbed cuff here and how it was really squished in like this. So I was pretty worried like that you know, that's not gonna work as a sweater. But of course, I've started on the body and of the stockinette portion of the body, and there are increases, so you can see it's getting a little bit big for the size cable. I'll have to go up soon, but it's definitely getting to more of a reasonable size. So again, super size inclusive pattern, just like most of hers are, if not all. I haven't done many myself, but from what I can tell, she definitely focuses on size inclusivity. So this is the third size, so there's extra small, maybe, or extra small, extra small, and then small. So I'm knitting the small, and it goes up to probably a 4 or 5 XL. So excellent pattern range. So this is a small, and I've started on the increases, so it's getting to be much more my size. So yeah, I'm really excited about this project. And if you watched my last one, this is the project where my husband felt it and said, wow, that does not feel real. And he's right, it's amazing. So I can't wait to keep going with this one. And I have to do this every time I hold this project. I can't just let it sit idly in my hands. All right. Yeah, I don't know if today's episode is going to be very long, you guys. I don't really have a whole lot of new stuff to talk about because you're pretty much caught up on everything I'm working on. I do have a couple of things for the end just to show some projects I would like to sort of repair or keep working on. I do have some problematic project, so I'll definitely show you that. But I'm actually in my studio right now, if you can't tell. This is where I dye my yarn and dye projects, sew projects, project bags. And it's about 8 or 9 in the morning, so I haven't started sewing yet today. So I don't have anything to show you as far as that goes. You know, if I make a lot of progress today, I will include some clips at the end to kind of show what I'm working on. But anything I create today that will be available for sale on the PaperCraneyarns Etsy, those will be posted to Etsy either today or a little bit later this week, so you can keep your eye out for that if you came to learn about what I've made. I know the past 2 episodes when I've talked about my bags, they've sold out instantly, so thank you guys so much for your support and for watching the shop and for being so enthusiastic about it like I am. Yeah, that means so much to me. The bags from last episode, they were the Monstera bags, if you had a chance to see. And man, those were beautiful. And I think they went to a really good home, so I'm excited that that person gets to use those bags. But I wish I had more fabric because I want the bags, and I've had lots of other people tell me they want the bags. So I have enough fabric for a couple more small ones. So we'll see. Hopefully I can make a few and at least get those out and try to find more of that fabric at some point. So yeah, okay, my next work in progress, in case you've missed it, I am redoing the Novice sweater by PetiteKnit. And again, this one has gotten probably the least amount of attention over the past week or so. So I'm still at the yoke, and I've done all my increases. I'm knitting to the length before you separate for sleeves right now. I did knit a little bit on this morning, but it's still pretty much the same as it was last time. I am excited for it though. So this was a redo of the first ever sweater that I knit very, very terribly. So I'm excited to actually get to wear this one. I haven't gotten to wear the other one, not even once. The original one I did, as soon as it was done, again, my first sweater, probably the second or third thing I ever knit, I was just so excited that I put it on and I could see everything wrong with it. And I convinced myself that it was fine and that it would work, and it looked good despite one sleeve being like up here and the other being down here. But yeah, I've never actually gotten to wear it, of course, and it's a good thing I didn't. So yep, I am excited for this one, and you would think I wouldn't forget what the yarn is since I've talked about it so many times. Oh, okay, it's the Drops Air in the pearl gray colorway. And it's very fluffy and squishy. And this is all I have left of this current ball, so it's almost time to switch. But I do love this project, and I do recommend this sweater pattern, especially if you are a complete beginner. She's updated PetiteKnit, whose actual name I don't know, but the designer behind PetiteKnit, she's updated the pattern since I originally bought it and knit it the first time, and it was already pretty helpful. If I remember correctly, it only had centimeters originally, and since I live in America, I'm more accustomed to using inches, so I appreciate that the pattern was updated with inches. It makes it a little bit quicker for me to follow along. But if you are looking for your first sweater pattern, this would be a really easy one. Not only is the yarn of a thicker weight, so it works up quickly, so you get that instant gratification feeling. The pattern is very instructional. So there's videos included on different techniques, some really basic techniques that are not hard, but if you've never done them or if you're unfamiliar, the videos will really help you to figure that out and get through it. Yeah, I would say that, there are some patterns that are more hand-holding than others. This is definitely one that holds your hand along the way and doesn't let you fall behind, doesn't leave you confused. So yeah, definitely recommend it for a first sweater. And I've mentioned this, but I love the little increase eyelets. They're so pretty, so easy. They really require no technique, and yet they provide, a really simple but lovely design. So yeah, I can't wait to wear this. And actually, if you've ever felt Drops Air before, this yarn by the Hook Nook, Jessica Carey, actually feels really similar. So if you're looking for maybe a budget version compared to Drops Air, and I can't remember how much I paid for this, but I think that these were maybe 50-gram balls, whereas these might be 100-gram. If you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, you might be able to get away with using something like this. This is a blown yarn, so it's really lightweight. and this isn't quite as light, but you might get the same effect. All right, wrapping up that project. Okay, my most exciting project that I've already talked about plenty of times, as well as the only procurement that I've made since we last spoke. So I'll show you that first. This basket, this is a hand-woven basket from Ghana, and it is beautiful. I love how vibrant it is, and it's huge, you guys, so it's been great for carrying around multiple projects, plus all the yarn that I've needed for them, so this has been great. If you follow me on my Instagram account, I use the stories feature to mostly show garden stuff, so and chickens. I should mention my husband and I have chickens, and they're all pets. We actually don't eat meat or any animal products, so our chickens are our pets, and so we have a lot of fun with them. I don't know how much fun they have with us, but we enjoy their company. We have 2 Silkies, 2 Rhode Island Reds, and now 4 baby Dominicers, so lots of chickens. So if you want to follow along on Instagram and see them occasionally, you can look at that. But I also show a lot of our garden spaces. We have a few different gardens. We have a food garden, we have a rose and flower garden, we have a tropical garden, and we have some gigantic indoor plants as well. So all that to say, yeah, if you want to check out those, if you like I do, to see other people's gardens, then make sure to look at that there. And in my highlights on Instagram, I've got some older footage of the garden, so you can kind of go back and see some of the earlier stuff. And actually, if you watch episode 2 of my podcast, the intro is a nighttime little walkthrough of the rose garden. Okay, yeah, all that to say, I've been using this basket to carry my projects up and down my backyard. It's pretty large, but half of it is up a hill. So the bottom, the base, is where we have the edible garden and the chickens and the rose garden on the other side. And then we have a hill that goes up, and we built stone steps into the hill this summer. I say we, but my husband did, and I get to benefit from it. So he built stone steps up to the top, where last year, when quarantine was at its peak and you definitely couldn't go anywhere, we built a patio out of stone up there, so we had to level out the hill and the dirt, and we built this beautiful patio. And so we've got furniture up on the top of this hill, and it's pretty cool because our neighborhood is one long street, and we're at the very end of the street, the very center house of the cul-de-sac, and up on the hill we can see over the entire neighborhood. So we have the highest vantage point, and we can see all the tops of the houses, and because of that we're up basically in the trees, and it's amazing because I love birds, and there's so many around, and I can hear them and see them everywhere. So man, this is a long story just to say that this has been great for carrying my projects up and down the hill so that I can move along like my different gardens and in and outside. So wow, rambling much? Okay, so this is my favorite project. Let me not show it before I tell you about it. This is the Nights Who Say Knit Mystery Knit Along by Marianarella of Lyrical Knits. The full pattern is now officially released. Yesterday marked the Clue 5 release date, so from here on out, when I show it, I probably won't give a warning that I'm showing you Mystery Knit Along, since the full pattern is now available, and if you didn't want to see it, you probably would have already avoided it as much as you could, and I'm sure you've seen other people's, if not mine. So this is Mystery Knit Along, and since it's wrapped up, I'm gonna just show it. So to talk about where I was last time, I had knit through Clue 2, and at the end of Clue 2, Mary has you put your entire shawl, so this is a shawl, she has you put the entire shawl onto a piece of waste yarn, and you just set it to the side. So with Clue 3, you cast on the shawl again, starting with the new instructions, but it's pretty similar with some slightly different stitch patterns in each section. So by the end of Clue 4, you have 2 pieces that are, you know, they have those differences, but they're the same basically. So you've kind of knit like the half of the shawl separately, and so I've knit it twice now. So when I last spoke with you, I was starting to fall behind and hadn't started on the second half yet. And so now I have finished all of clue 3 and I'm on, I think, the second or third section of clue 4. I did go ahead and look at the sneak peek photos for the full pattern yesterday to see how it's going to end up. And yeah, I can't wait to finish this and block it and show you guys and wear it, because it's going to be even more amazing than I expected. I'm so impressed with this. And yeah, if you haven't heard of this one, it is based on the Monty Python movie, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And yeah, I love that movie. It's so hilarious. So it's been a really fun pattern to read and to knit and to go through. It's getting hot, you guys. Okay, let's see, which side is the, okay, so this was the starter side. And this is all yarn that I dyed. This is a fingering weight, a 75/25 merino nylon. And this is based on the kits made by Miss Babs yarn that they designed for the Mystery Knit Along. This was based off of the Burn Her colorway kit. So yeah, this was the first one. It is all kind of scrunched up here at the top because of the waste yarn. You can see it's knotted right here, but the top is in a triangle pattern. So man, this is my favorite section. I love it. Let me show you a little bit. So this is where you cast on, is this end here. So this was the starting side, and then you work your way all the way to here. So it's full of bits of color work and these little bubbles. These are fun. You can see that they're all kind of raised up. And lots of mini baubles. This section sort of makes me think of all the honeycomb patterns by Stephen West. And then I love all these garter ridges. And then the lace. This was the shrubbery lace, which I think is funny, and it definitely looks like a little shrubbery. So I can't wait to block it so that these really come out. So that is what you've already seen. This is the first half. And I'm gonna move that to the side. So then this is the second half that I'm working on currently. And I worked on this non-stop for the past few days, and then I finally set it to the side so I could work on the socks. So this is this side so far. So again, this is where you start, and I obviously haven't woven in any ends yet, and I'm gonna regret that later. So this is where you start. There's lots of little lace eyelets. And yeah, you can see the similarities between the two, like this section. And then again, some baubles. And I just finished this section, which is, I guess that looks about the same as the one that I mentioned, like that looked like Stephen West. So I'm so excited. I mean, I'm sure you can just imagine how incredible this will all look when it's put together. I don't think I'll be able to hold it up. And there's a whole other section that will be knit to finish the fourth section, and then for the fifth section, a section that will be knit to combine these and add even more detail and loveliness. So this is going to be really eye-catching and so warm. So yeah, this is the wrong side, the floats. It's kind of fun. I love the peach and black combination. I definitely want some kind of sweater out of that, maybe with some more interesting mohair for a contrast. And yeah, this basket is huge. I mean, there's 4 skeins of yarn plus this entire project, plus it was also carrying my sheer V, and I still have all this space. I'll set that to the side. Wow, I think that really is all of my works in progress. Yeah, like I said, this episode is going to be a little bit shorter. My last one was close to an hour and a half. The first one was right under an hour, so we'll see how far we get with this one. If you guys have any opinions on how long you like your episodes to be of podcasts, then let me know. I personally don't mind, you know, I like the education aspect of watching podcasts, and that companionship, as weird as that might sound. You know, when you're working on something and you're almost working on something with somebody else. I love all knitting podcasts, all making podcasts. I mean, I watch such a variety of things. Like, you've probably learned this by now, but my husband and I are in love with Star Wars, and we are cosplayers. We are collectors and all sorts of things when it comes to Star Wars. So I love watching people build dioramas and models of different ships and stuff. So, you know, I don't really personally care how long a video goes on. I mean, at the end of the day, if I need to go, I'll pause it and come back. But if you guys have a preference, you know, just let me know and I can try to tailor to that. I'm sure not everybody is like me and only watches YouTube podcasts, but this is really the bulk of what I do with my watching time. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, so this is my thing. So yeah, just let me know if you have an idea for what you'd like to see as far as that goes. Okay. All right, I don't really have much else to talk about. I am going to show you a couple things that I guess sort of are a future crochet and a bad project, I'm going to call it. Like, this is a project that's been in timeout for some time now. No matter how many times it's tried to be good and I've tried to get it fixed, you'll see what I mean when I get there. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. If you haven't heard much from me, or if you've been wondering where I've been at with my shop or on Instagram or here, it's been definitely a busy week, and I'll talk more about that in the future. But I am still in the process of figuring out the best timing to open my shop here. This will be my local yarn store, and it is also my production studio, so it's definitely half and half. And yeah, the retail space is really just 2 main rooms, so it's relatively small, and then it goes into one giant room and a kitchenette, which are my studio and my dye studio. And I'm hoping that eventually I'll outgrow the space and either need to expand my studio, my sewing studio, into more retail space. That would be great if I was getting that kind of business. And I'm definitely going to be holding classes at some point, so it's kind of nice to have a space in there with lots of really big tables. My husband built me these giant tables out of some big wood slats that would have been doors, but they're unfinished. So he made me some giant workshop tables, and I've got seating and couches in there. So I'm so excited to eventually have a workshop that's open to the public for classes on knitting, crochet, dyeing, sewing. I really want to offer it all, but I am struggling right now to find the time. So, you know, I mentioned in my last episode, I do have a full-time job as well as this place. So I'm juggling a lot. it's a good thing, it's a happy thing, but it is exhausting. So I definitely am trying my best to just do it all and do it to the best of my ability. Yeah, this is a tangent. I don't know how I got here, but yeah, it's just what I've been working on and where I've been at. So yeah, okay, time to talk about some crocheting. I love crochet. I started with crocheting. I taught myself how to crochet probably about 3 or 4 years ago, probably 4 years. And again, YouTube, I learned everything from YouTube. So that's where I started. I didn't actually, and you might be surprised to find this out, but I didn't actually learn how to knit until February or March of 2020. So it was something that I always had the goal of doing, and especially when I started crocheting, I knew I wanted to knit. So I would research knitting and I would learn about it. I mentioned this podcast last time. This is an audio podcast, but the Yarniacs, Gail and Charlene, I used to listen to them all the time before I started knitting because obviously they have such a lovely chemistry and they make really a great pair to listen to, but they're so instructional and educational. So I learned so much about knitting before I actually started myself. But I've only been doing the physical act of knitting for a little over a year now, I guess. And I've been dyeing yarn since beginning of last June, I believe. So almost a year on that too. So yeah, this is, surprisingly relatively new for me, but I feel like I've been doing it my whole life. I guess that's just how much I care for it. But I started with crochet. I actually thought that it would be easier to learn crochet to start with, and I think that was right for me. Some people say that crochet is harder, some people say that knitting is harder, and with no foundation in the skill and no physical instruction, I just assumed starting with crochet would be simpler, and I think I was right, at least in the sense that I got to learn about the tools and the yarn and the fiber really well before I started knitting. And I think that was beneficial because at least the crochet projects that I've made for the most part have been a thicker weight, so that they don't take as much time, so they're a little bit more instant gratification. And I've mentioned that a few times. I don't require that by any means. Like, I do not mind a fingering weight project that takes me months. That's great. But as a beginner, I think you want to feel like you're making progress in your art and what you're learning to do. So that was really helpful. And I will say, since I swapped to knitting, and some of you probably will agree with this, the cost of the yarn I was using definitely went up a lot. I guess because with crochet, I was mostly making blankets to start with. And then of course some shawls, some fire stitch shawls, some of these, stuff like that. I did make a sweater once. I will have to show you guys. It's the only crochet sweater I've made, and I followed a pattern, but at the time I did not understand yarn weight. I didn't understand gauge by any means. I didn't know what it meant to like transform a pattern to fit your body. Nothing. So the sweater should have been like sort of a dolman style with like a rainbow. I did a dark rainbow. So I did a gray and like dark rainbow version of this, but it should have just been like a rainbow that went across the dolman like this. And the sweater was actually, man, I wish I don't have anything in here comparable. It was basically a blanket for your torso. The thing goes down to my knees and the shoulders were falling off here. I had to go back in and crochet to bring it in so that they sat maybe more here. But this thing is so heavy. It's never been blocked, and yet it's still like this. It's full acrylic. It's Lion brand, Easy Stitch or something like that. Yeah. And I will say, if I would have made that mistake with knitting, I think I would have felt a lot sadder because the crochet sweater took a couple of days, but a knitting sweater, depending on what it is, like I can knit a Felix pullover in less than a week, but I can't knit a sheer V by Jessie Maed in less than a week. So you're committing a lot of time, and with knitting, at least with the way that I knit. And I like to think I'm a pretty fast knitter. Anyway, I would have been devastated had I spent all the resources on knitting a sweater to have it come out that way. So yeah, I'm glad I started with crochet. And if you currently just knit, I recommend you learn how to crochet. It's so nice to have a range of arts and crafts to pick from, but also the hand motions. And it's really important to talk about that. You know, especially when I first started knitting, my hands used to hurt all the time, so badly. I mean, you're breaking in a new muscle memory. Of course, there's gonna be some pain, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily something you should just ignore, you know? And if you're crocheting, you're engaging some different muscles, you're working with some different motor skills, so it's great to mix those up. So yeah, I recommend learning crochet, or vice versa. If you know how to crochet, definitely learn how to knit. If you're like me, then you probably think when you're just crocheting that knitting is gonna be really hard, and it's so easy. And especially compared to crochet, honestly, like some things that you'll crochet, maybe a blanket or a scarf, those are gonna be pretty easy, but to me, the visuals of crochet are harder than the visuals of knitting. So knitting is so consistent. You know, I mean, you have all of your stitches on a needle, a cable needle, or I'm sorry, a cabled needle. So if you're knitting in the round or whatever. Crochet, I mean, you just have like a little hook, you know, that you are having to manage your stitch count and the math in a completely separate way. So you're having to be able to, you have to be able to look at each stitch and know the anatomy of the stitch. That was the hardest part for me in the beginning, was knowing where to put the hook. You know, with one leg or two, front or back. There's so many aspects that don't just come to you, you know. So anyway, yeah, I think that crochet is actually harder depending on what you're making. Since I have this here, I'll show you this beautiful little crochet hook. This is also the hook neck. I also got this when I bought this yarn, and I think I brought it along because I was going to mention that I think I used this for this, but I don't recall. But it is really pretty. I am full of rants and rambles today, apparently. Now to get to the crochet project that I was mentioning. So, once again, at the beginning of the pandemic last year, 2020, I decided to fully throw myself into fiber arts, like I'd always wanted to. And I was doing research, and at the time I was mostly crocheting, and I was doing research on, you know, better quality yarns, more interesting yarns than what I had been purchasing, and I came across the company Hobbii or Hobbii. I've heard people say Hobbii, so I'll go with Hobbii. And they make these gorgeous yarn cakes, these twister cakes. You've probably seen, and I think other companies do similar ones. So they were having a sale, and I decided to get a few because they're these massive cakes. They have all these gradients in them, and they're beautiful. So I found this pattern, and I thought that it looked beautiful, and I would go ahead and make it like to save for the future or as a gift knit. But it's called the Ziggy baby blanket, and it's a crochet pattern, and it's for the Hobbii twister yarn, which is a 55% cotton, 45% acrylic, and it's a very fine weight, almost a lace weight, I would say. And so they're 250 gram balls or cakes. So yeah, pretty sizable, and you only need one to make this blanket. So I bought the yarn that matched the pattern blanket, and let's see, the hook came out, so some of the stitches are coming undone. Let me just fix that. Sorry, you guys, I don't want this to get in any worse shape than it already is. So yeah, I mean, it's gorgeous, right? It's so elegant for what it is, and it's very drapey because it's just cotton and acrylic. It's very light, as I mentioned. It's got a beautiful gradient. The color change is pretty good and pretty subtle for the most part. So yeah, it's beautiful, and it could basically work as is right now. but it should be a rainbow and it should go to red, right? Well, yeah, this is where I am. And this is why the project has been in timeout. It's so sad. I have loved crocheting this and I want to finish it, but this is crazy. I've basically been slowly going through and trying to untangle so that I could form, you know, separate little balls. And I almost feel like I should just cut them out once I get an entire color. And I'll probably do that because, you know, I'll get a big section like this untangled, and see it's unraveling now. So then it'll mix in with like the big yarn barf, and then I have to do it again, and it's just been a mess. But basically at one point with the cake, I think I was going from a center pole, and this is why I stopped doing center poles. At one point, as I was doing the center pole, it came out in one big clump, and it was this big knot that I couldn't have known was there because the whole outside of the yarn cake looked perfectly normal, and it just popped this thing out. And so then as I'm trying to fix it, it's getting worse and worse. So yeah, I'm a little sad, you guys. I would like to get this finished. I'm not one for untangling yarn. This to me is, I love the process of fiber arts, but this is one that I emotionally can't handle. I have spent untold hours just trying to get this undone. It shouldn't be that hard, but it is. So yeah, this is something that is the definition of languishing. It will be beautiful when it's done eventually, if I can ever get it. So to sort of remedy that, I have decided to take one or two of these other twister cakes that I have to just make the blanket again. I only bought that colorway once because I intended to do some other stuff with these other colorways I'll show you. But I really want this little blanket, so I'm gonna just do it again because it's really fun to knit. I mean crochet. Yeah, I'm sure you could see it's very lacy, it's kind of airy, really, really pretty and lovely. So I want to make, okay, the camera just turned off, so let's hope it doesn't turn me off again. Yeah, what I was saying was that I originally bought these cakes to make these really, really big crochet wraps. It was another crochet along, I think. By the time I came across it, the whole thing was published, so I was gonna do it all at once. It had picture tutorials and everything, but it ended up being a relatively difficult crochet pattern, and by that point I had already learned how to knit, and I just had kind of swapped gears and sort of lost my interest in making a crochet project like that one, especially when it's something that I could accomplish with knitting. It's not to say that I wouldn't enjoy it, but I do prefer to knit. I think it's more fun, and I just like it better. So yeah, these cakes have been sitting there as basically decoration. So I have two other colorways, and I have two of each of these, and the other ones are at home because the pattern I was going to do required two of one plus an accent color for the tassels. So these are some Hobbii twister cakes. This one is color 9. Yeah, color 9, okay. So it's purples and blues. And this is what I'm talking about, where I was using the center pull, because there's actually an easy pull tab right here, this sticker. So you know that you can start there, and I trusted it. And I want to trust it again because it would be a lot simpler to use a center pull for something like this, but I'm so afraid that it's going to happen again where, you know, I'll do so much of it and then a bunch of it will just pop out. I can't, if this happens twice, I just don't know what to do. And then this one I like even more. So this one is almost black, but it's more of like a navy, and so it's blues, and it goes to sort of a mauve pink. It's definitely pretty mauve in the center. It's a little too bright for the camera, where the light is. Sorry. Okay. So I think this will make a fun blanket too. Not quite the same, but still enjoyable, still worth it. So yeah, just as a reminder, 55% cotton, 45% acrylic. So it does feel really nice. They recommend a 3 to 4 millimeter needle size, so a US 3 to 6, or a 3.5 to 4 millimeter crochet hook. and I can't remember, well, yeah, I was probably using a 3.5 for that first one. Yeah, I just have one more thing to talk about, and then I'm gonna call it a day and get to actually doing some work here in the studio. I'm used to recording later in the day when all my work is done, so I was thinking I was gonna get to go home after this, but nay, I have work to do. So one more project that, this one is actually a knit project. This one has been done for some time, but I want to modify it. So this is my Boxy sweater by Hobbii, and I knit a tweed version. So if you've seen ever the Boxy pattern, I'm sure you have. It's a very oversized pattern, and I'll try to input a clip of me wearing it. It's almost comical because it has these little T-Rex sleeves. So you've got this huge body, this really interesting shoulder detailing, this garter stitch detail, and that goes down until the sleeve starts. So you've got this huge body and these tiny sleeves. So the thing that I'm going to modify, I actually don't like where the sleeve ends, and I also don't like the bind off that I did. It comes probably to about here, and it's a little tight, so it kind of presses into my skin a little. But I'm not much of a fan of that length of sleeve anyway. So when I was done with the sweater, as always, I had lots of leftover yarn. This is the Knit Picks Stroll Tweed Fingering Weight in Indigo Heather, 231 yards to 50 grams. And it's full of dog hair. Oh man, that's pretty bad. I've had this for a while. But I probably have 3 or 4 full skeins left, balls left, a mixture of full and some scraps. So I'm just going to open up the sleeve and knit them to the full length of my arm so that they go over my wrist. So that's something I've been wanting to do for a while and just haven't yet, so I will get there at some point. You know, I have all these, we all have all these things that we just want to do all the time, and it's hard because, you know, every day you learn of more and more that you want to do, and it just, the list grows and your priorities change and you've got to swap things around. But hey, eventually I'll get some stuff done. This is one of my favorite sweaters though. It's very soft. I do recommend using this yarn. I will say this sweater took eons because it is such a fine wool and it's such a huge sweater. This, I think, the smallest size. But here's the stitch definition if you can see that. Yep. Okay. I think that actually ends it. So ended up being a pretty long podcast between the two filmings that I had to do when the camera cut me off and here. Okay, so yeah, thank you again so much for checking me out. I appreciate your support and all of the comments that you guys leave. Feel free to chat with me anytime. Send me a message. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know what you'd like to see. Thank you for checking out my Etsy if you've done so, if you've favorited my shop or my items, or if you've made a purchase from me. I hope that you're all loving all of the project bags and the yarn that you've gotten. And check out my shop, favorite it if you want to get updated when I post new stuff. All right, I'm gonna sign off and get to work. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. Bye. Okay, I just finished recording and I've already said goodbye probably 100 times, and I'm gonna have to edit out the wrong ones, but this is me coming right after recording to just say I forgot to mention this. And I know that this isn't like the mark of my success or how we should measure our value or anything like that, don't get me wrong, but I have already reached 100 subscribers here on YouTube. So yeah, thank you all who have done so. That really means a lot. It's definitely showing me that, you know, I've got that audience that wants me to keep going. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that. A lot of you have been other podcasters yourselves. So maybe next episode I'll compile a little list of some of my favorites or some that I've recently been enjoying. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much because that's pretty cool. I love that I get to talk about all of my favorite things, and you know, we can talk about it together. So thank you so much. All right, I'm actually leaving now. Bye.